This is an ortho-K case with a 52-year-old patient who's wearing lenses prescribed for monovision. The patient's initial complaint was blur at near. She wanted better near vision, and after a redesign of lenses, she was still having trouble at near, and then also having some trouble seeing the distance as well, if I'm understanding the case correctly. And right now on the screen, I have lenses for the right eye. The one on the left, I believe, is the one the patient has worn for the past 3 to 4 years. And then the one on the right is the one that was designed recently, and after dispense, the patient was not having satisfactory vision. The patient was fitted for the right eye to be dominant for distance vision, and we are looking at the lenses for the right eye right now. So I would say the topography, post-wear topographies, I don't have them on the screen, but looking at them, the treatment zone does look like it's a little bit below the center of the pupil. It looks like the lens is riding a little bit low. If we look at the newest lens, there is about 80 microns of more sag in this lens. And that may cause the lens to drop a little bit. Another thing I noticed is that the topo demand had been increased quite a bit. We went from a 1.54 up to a 2.99, so about a diopter and a half additional more correction for myopia. And if the patient was not really having any distance complaints with her older lenses, I'm more inclined to just leave the older lens as it is. If it was satisfactorily taking care of her distance vision, this lens has a little bit sag, it's not quite as deep, and it may ride a little bit higher to give a better center treatment zone. So I would consider just switching back to the original lens. It sounds like it was working great for distance, but the patient needed some better near vision. So if we move over to the left eye, where let me bring those lenses up. Okay, here's the left eye. Again, the lens on the left is the one I believe the patient has worn for the past few years, and the lens on the right is the one that was designed more recently. The changes I see in this lens are we reduced the topo demand. Initially, we were at a 2.93, and we dropped that about a half diopter, so we would expect to see in the patient's post-wear refraction of about half a diopter more myopia, which is ideal if we're trying to improve the patient's near vision. The initial demand here of 2.93 seems a little bit high for a prescription of -4.25, especially if this was initially the reading eye. I would expect this number to be a lot smaller than it is, but if this is what was working well, then we'll go off of it. And I would probably build in a little bit more minus power or less topo demand in order to get a little bit more, leave the patient with more residual myopia in the left eye, and that should help with her reading. So if we want to add in another diopter and a quarter to the left eye of reading power, then our target here would be about a plus 1.18, and I would just click down here until we're pretty close to 1.18. And that's pretty close. That was in 100% mode. And I'm going to go to 25% mode and just tune each of the individual meridians. That's exactly at 118. This one can be a little bit closer. And it looks like that's the closest I'm going to get in every meridian. So now we have a new design here compared to the lens that the patient had been wearing, not the newest lens, but the lens prior to that, were a little bit steeper in the base curve, so this should correct less of her original 4¼ diopters of myopia, and that should leave her with a little bit more of an add for the left eye. Hopefully that will improve her near vision, and then the reversion to the original lens in the right eye should get her back to where she was previously distance-wise. There was also a question of whether we should move this patient to a scleral lens, and you certainly could, but I don't think you have to. Scleral lenses help when lenses are not centering well or we're getting a little too much movement in the lens. But looking at the topographies that were sent, the centration of the treatment zones, although a little bit low, it was pretty good. And I'm not sure that a scleral lens would add a whole lot to the outcome of this particular case. I think adjusting the topo demand, especially in the left eye, reverting to the original, not the original, but the previous lens in the right eye, where the lens was a little bit flatter or a little bit less sag, it should ride a little bit higher. Also, it'll have a little bit less demand and should get her back to where she was distance-wise with the previous pair. So I hope this helps, and good luck with this patient.